Hello, everybody, and welcome to my first impressions. I'm hoping to make this a series where I play a demo or beta and give you some of my thoughts from the perspective of a gamer and a game designer. Today, we are taking a look at Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. A few weeks ago, I played the closed global beta and I really enjoyed my time in it. But before we jump into my thoughts, I should probably explain my experience with the Phantasy Star series. So I've played previous Phantasy Star games like Phantasy Star Universe on 360, the original Phantasy Star Online on Dreamcast, Phantasy Star Online Portable 2 on PSP, and the more recent Phantasy Star Online 2, which I will be using as a comparison to my experience with the beta since they will technically be combined. And we'll get into that more later. But anyways, I have some experience with the series. However, I play it very casually and don't actually use half the mechanics that are in the game. Now that you have some kind of idea on the knowledge and experience I have in the series, more or less, we are going to jump right into it, starting with the gameplay. NGS plays almost exactly the same as PSO2, with a few quality improvements. One of the first and biggest things that you'll notice that's different between the two is the movement. In PSO2, players only had a walk/run, a jump, and a dash dodge, and then players would eventually get a double jump once they leveled up high enough. In NGS, they added a sprint button, allowing you to toggle between a walk and a sprint. The jump now allows you to double jump from the start, unlike PSO2, but the biggest change is the glide that you can perform when in the air. The final movement ability they added is a sort of wall kick that allows the player to jump off the wall to get more height. These changes help the game feel better to move around in, and now that I have played this, it feels weird not having it in PSO2. Combat is more the same, however, the feedback you get on attacks looks and sounds way better. Now, I don't think that the feedback in PSO2 is necessarily bad, but it is definitely dated, and NGS makes it feel more modern. The openness of the level, which we will get into more depth later, is a breath of fresh air compared to the tight corridors we had previously. The openness brings me to the next amazing improvement, a lack of loading screens. Yay! PSO2 is full of loading screens to go between different areas, even in the hub. In NGS, it is all open, allowing the player to move freely between the hub and the combat areas without a single loading screen. Now, we talked about the combat in the gameplay section, but the visuals when attacking look awesome. I mean, check this out. These attacks look so cool. The visuals in combat make the attacks look like they could really take down some of the large enemies you fight in this world, because they appear powerful. Besides the look with the attacks, the entire game is an upgrade really in the visual department. Character models look sharper and have way more detail than they previously did. One of these details is a little unimportant, but the developers are pretty excited about it, so I thought I'd bring it up. And this would be the movable fingers, which you may think, so what, plenty of games have moving fingers. Well, if you ever plan to play any of the Phantasy Star games or jump into PSO 2 before NGS, you'll see why this is a big deal in this series, but let's be honest, this isn't something that will affect whether or not you enjoy the game. The world, while graphically more beautiful to look at, is also way more open. This gives you way more freedom to explore than we have ever had in a Phantasy Star game. Levels have always been more linear with little reason to explore. Here, it is completely different, having mountains to climb, caves to explore, and I assume water to swim through, although there wasn't much to swim through in the beta. I noticed some things had seemed to be more streamlined and simplified compared to PSO2. In NGS, I did more upgrading and cooking in this one beta than I have ever done in any Phantasy Star game. These things have never been super complicated, or just felt like a chore in other games that I didn't feel like doing as a filthy casual. In PSO2, in order to cook something, it uses set recipes requiring specific ingredients, but in order to get all the ingredients, you have to travel to multiple areas and mine or fish, and get lucky enough to get the ingredients you need. So not complicated, just a chore. In NGS, it's more simple, and the ingredients are found in certain areas, no luck required, and there are no set recipes. You just make your own, which I think is pretty cool to make your own buffs and get to experiment a little. I think upgrading was the same, so I'm not sure why it felt like less of a chore, but it did. There were a few small things that I noticed were gone and or changed from PSO2 and aren't really important, but I thought I would bring them up here. Things like the announcer to let you know when there's a little public event going on is gone. Gonna miss that guy. No more mission counters. All quests are accepted from NPCs just standing around. In fact, a lot of counters are missing and don't seem to have a replacement in the town, so I assume they aren't going to be in New Genesis, which is fine, because I think there are a few too many. The last thing that I can think of that was missing was the ability to summon your friends as NPCs. Some things that I didn't get to experience from the beta was how the character transfer between PSO2 and NGS works, the entire map, which was only a select area to explore, and the loot that we all know will be a full release. I'm very excited to see my character with my weapons, armor, and outfits. The rest of the map can be seen from the outside and look to have some more variation to the terrain, like a frozen tundra and possibly a volcanic area, but what we got to experience was really just the foresty kind of jungle area. The loot was fairly limited in the beta, either that or I had very terrible luck, which is definitely possible. But there was only 3 of each weapon type that I was able to find. The biggest thing though, and most important, is that outfits won't take up your inventory space. Most of my inventory space and most other players is taken up by outfits, so this is a big change for a lot of people. It means we'll be able to store so much more stuff. So the things I want to see may be in the game when it launches, but weren't in the beta. The first thing that I'm hoping that they put in there are the other classes that are in PSO 2, like the Summoner with the pets and the Braver with the katana and bow. I also would like to have a
use for the swimming, allowing you to swim to a nearby island or create some underwater explorations, I think would be pretty neat. The glide and sprinting works and is fun, but I can't help but wish it was a bit more like Warframe in speed and fluidness to make it feel a little better, but it's fine the way it is. In conclusion, I really enjoyed my time with the beta, and I'm excited to see it when it releases. I think if you are a casual player like me, this game will be a great jumping in point if you haven't played these games before or have been worried that it is too complicated. I think if you are a casual player like me, or you haven't played these games before and have been worried that it is too complex, this game will be a great jumping in point. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see more like this, leave a like and subscribe so you can see when I upload. Catch you guys later.